We all know somebody who keeps all of their snakes or all of their reptiles in tubs in a rack system, and that is just awful. Or is it? Let's talk about that. My name's Adam, this is Sarah, you're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles, stick around. Keeping your reptiles in a rack system is terrible, unless maybe it's not. So today let's just go over what the pros and cons are, why it's good, why it's not, or maybe it's indifferent. And then at the end, stay tuned because we're going to give away something special. 50,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. We're doing a big giveaway. Stay tuned till the end and hit subscribe while you're at it. You're going to need to do that anyway. Let's just get right into it. And to get started, this is Sarah the leopard gecko, and Sarah lives in a tub. I keep tubs in my personal collection, so not for long, by the way. If you haven't already hit subscribe, we're getting a major upgrade for some of the leopard geckos next week. Anyway, the reason that I keep them in tubs is because there are certain advantages for certain species. And there are some species that, obviously you can't keep in a tub system, a rack system, properly. You're not going to keep a savanna monitor or a tegu or even a bearded dragon in a tub system or a rack. And there are right and wrong ways to go about keeping tubs, keeping a rack. And let's just start off with the wrong ways. First of all, no way to thermoregulate. I see this a lot. People just build this bookshelf, or they just get a bookshelf that they retrofit and they start sliding tubs in there with a bunch of animals, and there's no heat tape at the back. It's not in a room that's up to temperature. They just see it on a YouTube channel. It's not explained in the video that they watch, and they think, well, this guy does it, not knowing that there's a whole bunch involved. Putting heat tape on the back or the bottom of the shelves, the units there, to have some sort of climate in the room. And a light cycle is another thing too. A lot of people keep these things in closets. You can't keep even a crepuscular animal like a leopard gecko in a closet that doesn't get a light cycle. That's wrong. You just can't do that. Those are the two really big ones. No light cycle, so they think it's dark all the time, which is just terrible, and no thermoregulation, no heat supplementation at all, making sure that these guys have the right way to go about living, the way that they live in the wild, where they can get from a cool place to a warm place to digest their food and so forth. But not only that, but what about just simple things? Simple things like the fact that people don't decorate the enclosure. And I don't mean to make it look nice, just to add enrichment. You have to add some sort of enrichment to your enclosure. Otherwise, your reptiles are just going to be super bored. They're going to feel insecure because there's not enough hiding spaces. That's another thing. And it just kind of looks sterile. And there are people who are going to fight me on this and say, well, there's nothing wrong with putting paper towel and nothing in there. I personally don't agree with it. I'm not going to say that that's for sure bad, but I am going to say that I would put that in the wrong category. It's very simple to give a good substrate, something that is, I don't know, for a leopard gecko, for example, maybe paper towel is the best option. But if you had something like, say, a ball python in a big tub, big rack, then you might want to use something like a cocoa block or something like that to keep the humidity up, that doesn't get super saturated. That's a whole other topic of how to do that properly. But that leads into the size thing. Tubs aren't always too small. A lot of people say that, well, it's too small. If you look at the floor dimensions of a 28-quart Sterilite tub and the dimensions of, say, an equivalent size enclosure that is made of glass, like a fish tank, no one's going to bat an eye if you keep a leopard gecko in a 20-gallon fish tank. But they're going to tell you that a 28-quart enclosure is too small. I disagree. I think you can keep a leopard gecko, a full-size leopard gecko, a full-grown leopard gecko, in one of those enclosures. Or an African fat tail. Whatever. So now that we talked about the wrong way, the right way is basically just the opposite. So just a well-maintained enclosure. Something that, if it's appropriate, to have a naturalistic substrate, to make sure that you have the bare minimum, I'm talking about a light cycle, and heat, to make it a little bit more elaborate inside, so they've got things to crawl over, climb under, to hide behind, just hides things to make them feel more secure. And then, of course, like, fill the water dish. You wouldn't believe how many times I watch a video and there's no water in any of the water dishes. That's just insane. Get a water bottle. It looked like there was going to be one right there. But water bottles just get up. I don't know where mine went. And fill the freaking water dishes. It's not that difficult. And when I say light cycle, people are going to say, well, how are you supposed to do that? There's no way that you could do a light cycle. Well, I'm talking about in the room. So if you've got a room where the light's on, or window light, like light shines in the window so it lights up the room, they're going to be able to see that coming into the tub. It'll never be as light as like a glass enclosure. Okay, we're getting off topic here. Let's go into the pros and cons and why I think it's okay. But let's start off with the cons, because people do kind of harp on the tubs. Even my channel, where mostly I've got these PVCs and exoterras and stuff like that, and I'm trying to get everything besides the breeding colonies I've got, which is a very limited number, into these enclosures the more I acquire. But here's why they can be considered bad. You can't see your animal, which is kind of a bummer if it's a pet, right? If you have a breeding operation, I'm not attacking you. I just want to make that super clear. If you have a breeding operation, if you're a mutation creation, something like that, Billy takes care of his animals. So I'm not harping on guys like that. I'm talking about the people who are like hobbyists, who just hoard a bunch of animals as much as possible because it takes up less space, so I have a rack. That's what I'm talking about. If you're a breeder, then there's a need for it. If you're a hobbyist and you want to have pets, one of the cons is that you can't see your animals. And this is bad because, well, I mean, the whole point for me to own reptiles is I like to look at them and interact with them, but also it might be just that you can't see them, and if you don't go in that room for a while, then you might not know how they're doing. For example, if I come in this room and I see Franny behind me, I know if she's doing well or not by looking at her, for the most part. Like, you can tell if she's sick and there's a telltale sign. I can see her every time I walk in here. If she was in a rack, that wouldn't be the case. Now, if you're opening the rack every day, again, not an attack on people who use racks, then it's not a problem. I'm just talking about the people who walk in and look in the rack like once a week. Might be an issue. Also, it's less impressive to look at. A rack, I mean, there are some really nice commercial ones, which, by the way, in Canada, I want to upgrade all my racks. If you know someone in Canada or someone who ships to Canada for a reasonable price, who makes racks for things like colubrids, ball pythons, like that size, nothing huge, throw me a link below. I need to upgrade my racks. But anyway, the ones that I have are kind of ugly. They're made of melamine. I made them myself, and I'm definitely not a carpenter. So it's just less impressive to look at than like a stack of these things, which it's not always green lights, by the way, just for you guys, changing back to white. But anyway, this looks more impressive. Or if you want to get something like the new enclosures I'm getting are cages enclosures. These are amazing enclosures. They're beautiful the way they look at. This one here is a custom made one for me. Anyway, link in the description below, code WWR for free door handles, the best PVC enclosures you can get. Another thing is with racks, with tubs, when you pull the tub out, it can be a little bit scary for the animal. They're moving, their entire space is moving, and also you'll be coming in from the top. And that's something I like about PVCs and front opening enclosures, is you can go in from the side, because you gotta think, if this thing is getting eaten, it's like by something from above, most likely. If you come in from the side, it's a little bit less, I don't know, stressful for the animal, so that's just a very small thing. But I think that, again, not attacking racks is just one of the disadvantages. And two more things too, you can't add a basking bulb or UVB most of the time in regular rack systems. There might be some advanced ones that I don't know about, but I'm talking the ones that you are thinking about when you clicked on the video. You can't add a UVB, so you kind of limits what you're allowed to keep in there. And even certain animals, like I started giving my hognose snakes UVB, just to try it out, to see if they like it. It's made zero difference, in my opinion, but just to try it out. And there are certain animals that even a leopard gecko could benefit from UVB. There's certain animals that don't need it, they're not gonna get sick without it, but like some people like to add it, which is great. But also a basking bulb. I like to give certain snakes, like hognose snakes, heat from above. I give a lot of animals heat from above, and it's a little bit more difficult to do that with a rack system. Okay, no more negative Nancy. What are the positives of keeping things in tubs and racks? Well, obviously, space saver. I can keep 10 animals, and what's the footprint of this rack here? I forget how tall it is, but it's 2 feet by 1.5 feet floor space. So literally, what's that, 1.5 math? I failed math so many times in school.
Nice execution.
You're doing terrific.
Square feet. So it's kind of a no-brainer, and in that sense, obviously, this shouldn't be your main motivation, of course. Your main motivation might be super easy to add heat and humidity to the right parameters, because there's very little airflow, which could be a negative for certain animals, but for animals that it's not going to be an issue, and you can always add extra holes in the tubs for more airflow, so you could keep things like African fat tails and leopard geckos in these enclosures, but it's easier to keep a humidity and to keep a temperature because it's a confined area, and it's not a lot of height either. A lot of the times, well, everyone knows heat rises, so it might be difficult to keep an enclosure at the right temperature throughout, where a tub has less of that one dimension, so it's a lot easier to keep a steady humidity level and a steady temperature. Animals will also feel more secure a lot of the times because it's a smaller space. Obviously, if you are in a glass enclosure, all four sides glass, you're going to see everything around you all the time. You're going to feel like there's nowhere to hide. And obviously with PVCs, you only have one side that is transparent. But with tubs, a lot of the times they're kind of opaque rather than completely transparent. So you feel much more secure as a reptile. It feels like more secure, and a lot of snakes like to feel like they're kind of jammed into a space. Give them room to move, obviously, but it feels a little bit more tight and a little bit more secure for a lot of animals. And the last thing is, in my opinion, cleanup is so much easier. Because you can get these 28 quart tubs for like 15 bucks a pop. Here in Canada, that's probably cheaper in the US, I imagine. You can just get a bunch of extra ones. So if there's a big accident, right? Let's suppose you keep a juvenile ball python in one, and you're keeping it on paper towel for whatever reason. Don't recommend this, but anyway, you're keeping something on paper towel. You can just go in there, remove the entire paper towel, spray it with F10, clean it super duper fast, spray it with water, clean out the F10, put your substrate back in, which is paper towel, and then that's it. Wham bam, Bob's your uncle. Put all the other stuff that you have in the enclosure back in the enclosure, and you can just, or what you could do is you could take that tub out and then bring a bunch of them to your area where you clean and just change them out. So you always have clean tubs available. Same thing with substrate. You pull it out and you get this whole area right from the top. Where with these enclosures, I got tiny little T-Rex arms. These are 2 feet deep. So I kind of have to get like half my body in there too to scoop the poop at the back. I don't have that issue with a tub. I go in from the top. It's super easy. So there you go. I kind of baited you in. I don't actually think that tubs are awful, but I needed to bait you in to give you the idea why I think that they're not. And if you clicked off because you thought I was harping, I'm not. If you keep things in racks, there's obviously a reason to do it. There's a right way to do it. The idea is do it the right way and not the wrong way or for the wrong reasons. Okay, now that that is settled, I would like to announce a special thank you to all of you for watching and hitting subscribe. 50,000 subscribers is the most ridiculous number. I never thought in a million years this channel would get to this point. It's absolutely insane. And I want to say thank you so much. Honestly, I know every YouTuber says, you guys are the best, I have the best viewers, whatever. I mean it. You guys are amazing. And I want to say thank you sincerely from Sarah and everybody and I really appreciate it. And to say thank you, we're going to give some stuff away. We're going to do 5 t-shirts given away next week. When are we going to do it? Check my calendar. Friday on the 20th. So Friday, November 20th, we're going to give away 5 shirts in a draw on a live stream. We're going to do it in the afternoon. I haven't picked a time yet, like 2 or 5 or whatever. Let me know below what time works for you. So here's how you enter. Instagram link below. Go to Instagram, follow the Instagram page, go to Facebook, link below, follow the Facebook page, and be subscribed here. That's it. Hit thumbs up too. I'm not going to check if you do, but I'd appreciate it if you did. It helps this video a lot. And just leave a comment below with this emoji or WWR. It doesn't matter, and that's how you enter in. I'm gonna check when I draw to make sure you're subscribed to all 3 things, and that's how you qualify. Very simple. We're gonna draw it live. Man, I made that sound very complicated. It's not. Leave this symbol or code WWR below, and if you're subscribed to all 3 things I told you to subscribe to, then you're good. So keep an eye out for that. You've got 2 weeks to enter. It's only on this video that you can leave the symbol or the code WWR. And a special thank you, huge thank you, to the Patreon supporters. You guys are freaking awesome. I could not be happier with this platform. You get to see this video early, several videos early. Everything I kind of do, Patreon sees first. Special animals that nobody knows about except for Patreon. And the new enclosure that we're putting, like really crazy upgrade for some of these leopard geckos. You guys are going to know about that first on Patreon. And if you're wondering, what the heck do you feed in a collection of geckos and bearded dragon, Grubterra? Use the code WWR below. These guys, you get 10% off your whole order. These guys ship, the shipping in the US is absolutely amazing. The product quality is superb. If you want to add something different to the diet of your gecko or your bearded dragon or whatever, link below, code WWR for 10% off. That was like the longest outro ever. Are we done? Anything to say? See you on Monday.